Now, mind you, you do have the setup from the Shadow Demon, so you do have an almost guaranteed stun setup, but the fact that they are lacking these kind of disables is starting to scare me a little bit for T1. I suppose they could fix that with their last pick as well, assuming you get some big disable for your last pick. It's probably going to be okay, and Vice Esports. Once again,
Woo.
if it's not broken, don't fix it. And if it is broken, well, you've got Bob on your team. He can fix it. I can almost guarantee he'll fix it.
Absolutely, he will. I like the aim here. Honestly, I don't say that too often. I think you don't have too much stuns to worry about. Like the biggest one is disruption into the spear. But if you're fat, that's not the easiest thing. And of course, you're going to have to commit 2 heroes every single time to start to set up. That's going to free up a lot of space for all the other heroes to run around because they only have that one combination to control. So I think the aim's going to have a good time running around. Maybe the demonic purge causes some issues, but probably not for the most part. At least not as long as blink is up. So you should have those options for Vice. You've also got this ridiculous split push strat now, Mike. NP, Lesh, AM. Objectives are not going to stand. And you're talking about T1 playing this long game with a Spectre. They don't have the best heroes to save those towers. Like they're going to rely heavily on Cuckoo getting a big arena off and kind of building off of that. Maybe you get a good arena, Tombstone outside, get some value from those zombies, get some control, get some damage off, and punish Vice Esports. But Vice is not necessarily weak earlier. And the Leshrac alone has some great presence out. They've got the Tusk to save, which is also an interesting back and forth. Say the Disruption Spear comes out. If the Tusk is nearby, the Snowball can just save them from trouble and can take them outside that arena as well. So there's a lot going on here for Vice, and T1 have to have something amazing in this last pick. Not just something good to pile on control. It needs to be something spectacular to fix this draft up.
Do you think it's going to be an offlane Mars here, or do you think maybe they throw the Mars in the into the mid lane? Because I believe we have seen Carl play the the mid Mars quite a few times, and they usually do leave Cuckoo's hero till the last pick. So I'm kind of thinking maybe it's going to be a mid Mars here up against the Lesh, and maybe they give something else to Cuckoo.
Could be. I don't think mid Mars does really well against a Leshrac though. Like it can farm, but if you're just talking about raw farming potential, Leshrac once he hits 4 is going to farm a bit better. He's got a lot of magic damage as well. The Mars is not going to be blocking a lot of those. Bulwark's not going to really help in stopping the Leshrac from last hitting as well, for the most part, because they just tend to spam Split Earth out and Lightning Storm. So not the most amazing, but it can hold steady. We're going to have to see. I think Mars against AM is pretty okay for Cuckoo if you wanted to play that way. NP is not going to have a good time harassing a Mars once you hit level 3, or at least level 4 for the valuable work. Tusk is going to be annoying, but to a certain extent. And Vice do pick up a Grimstroke, so they've got this ridiculous high mobility jump in Inkswell on top of the AM, Inkswell on top of the Nature's Prophet going around. They've got Soulbind out, which doesn't really do too much here. I guess double Lightning Storm is nice, but not much else to speak of. However, the control is nice. Soulbind, if you manage to catch the Spectre, means she can't run away. And that's going to be the big one. I think just using that for control on the Spectre, it's going to be enough to make it hard for a T1 to get Jackie out safe, which is their main concern. So it does play into the aggression that Vice can have here as well for their lineup, and I think it kind of ties up this draft pretty nicely.
I would agree. T1, their final pickup now. They know exactly what Vice has. What do they want to pick up here for their last pick? Do they want a mid? Do they want an off lane? They've got 40 seconds to make that decision. Vice, of course, feeling very confident with the same kind of core lineup of Lesh AM. They go for the Ember Spirit, so you do have a bit more disable. Again, I am slightly concerned because you do have to land the chains, but it can be very effective up against heroes like the AM. And I suppose in the laning stage as well, the Ember doesn't care too much about the Lesh because you do have that inbuilt Flame Guard. You are still going to have to be worried about the Diabolic Edict because that is physical damage rather than magic. But overall, how do you feel about this draft from T1?
I think the Carl Ember Spirit does sort of fix up their lanes a bit. At least Ember Spirit against Leshrac is a bit more manageable for the Ember. You have dodge tools with your Sleight of Fist. You mentioned the Flame Guard, kind of shielding you from the damage, except for the Diabolic Edict. I think Carl should be able to balance this lane a bit better. I don't think it fully fixes the issues with her lineup, though. But the Ember Spirit is a hero that can play aggressive. So we have to see Carl. I mean, we saw him play the Void Spirit last time, which has sort of similar timings. I think Carl needs to be as aggressive on the Ember, but in a smart way. You know, last time he was getting caught out. You can't afford to have that happen here on the Ember. He's got to be very careful when he plays on Edge. And T1 as a whole has to be ready to play as 4. Just play as 4, run around, get your lockdown combinations, get the arena off with a spear, get the tombstone outside with White Bond, and try to force out fights that way. You're probably not going to lock in the AM unless you get that Disruption Spear combo while the Tusk is away. But if you can hunt down all these other heroes, they do need some farm. Like, that is a shortcoming of Leshrac. That's a shortcoming of Nature's Prophet. They need some initial farm to really start getting that work done. And they're going to have to share that farm with an AM.
See how it all pans out. Game number 2 between T1 and Vice Esports. Can the side of T1 draw out this series, or are Vice going to leave with a 2-0 victory today? I'm sure they'd love that. We'll find out very, very soon. Good luck, have fun's going around. Have no idea what Cuckoo just said.
Palos, you meanie. Carl, you meanie as well. They're all just calling each other, well, very feminine. Is the kind way to put it. You know, it's just typical net speak, net cafe speak. Palos, though, throwing out Zenki.
Like,
and Carl just doubling down on Palos this time. Jeez, these guys have no chill. No chill.
No chill at all. Good to see they're in good spirits though going into this game number 2. There's one thing you can always rely on with a player like Cuckoo is even after a bad loss like game 1, he's always the positive kind of guy. He doesn't seem to get upset or angry, which I think is a good kind of personality trait to have.
Oh, definitely. It helps you reset. You know, it helps you think clearly into the second game. I think that's something a lot of teams lack. You just need a way to reset. I mean, we've seen it with like OG, right? In TI, it's always all about resetting, keeping a straight head on, and taking it game by game.
Absolutely. A lot of stickers being placed. So it is going to be a 2-for-2 banner rune trade. Very even stuff. Talk about the top lane to start things off, John. Zephyr is going to be around with Cuckoo. And it looks like they are going to be up against Palos once again. And I believe Palos may have... In fact, where is Palos' support? Zenki, maybe, will go up again? I suppose they want to try and get started with a tri-lane down to the bot lane and just try to get a first blood going for themselves before they do rotate a support back up.
Yeah, it's pretty darn potent if they can find the angle, right? Get tag team off, you get an ink spell on top while they're slowing down, get the stun off, start to get the chip damage with some of these treants as well. So you do have a lot of kill potential with this kind of early tri-lane start. Jackie has to be a bit cautious. He is by his tier 1, so it's kind of doubtable that anyone's going to find him. This Ob's Ward's a pretty nice spot as well to block the camp, although it's not really giving too much vision. So probably not going to get as much information. Let's see how long they commit. You really don't want to leave your aim up alone for too long, though. So they're probably not going to stick around too long, but can set up for that first blood anyway.
I believe they just want to kill off Jackie. They know Whitemon won't have the Soul Rip yet, and nah, it's not going to work out. Samael, he wanted to get in there, but where the creeps have landed does not really help to get this first blood. It looks like they are going to indeed bring Zenki back up to the top lane where he can be a bit more supportive towards Palos. Of course, they are going to need it as well, because going up against the Mars, while you are going to have that mana drain available up against the Mars, which is going to be frustrating for Cuckoo, Cuckoo is still going to be able to just get those last hits and get those denies off fairly easily on this hero.
Yeah, he's already using his God's Rebuke really well. Palos can't really stand and farm that lane too safely. Zenki as well, going for that Stroke of Fate, can't really do as much. He runs the risk of shoving Wave out. So his harassment trades with Zephyr as well isn't the best. And surprisingly, Zephyr is holding on to his level 1 skill. So he's holding out on Disruption
Oh,
or Shadow Poison as well.
Oh, Carl. And he was trying to stay within XP range, and Bob just gives him the right click plus a lightning strike, and that's going to be first blood again for Bob on the Leshrac.
Yeah, that's really not the start you want here for Carl, and we kind of saw him struggling in game number 1 on his Void Spirit. You can't have that same performance here on an Ember. Definitely needs to be a bit tighter. Item timings are also kind of sensitive on the hero, so you do not want to give those opportunities to Bob. Now, the bright side is he is refreshed and Bob isn't, but Bob has a bottle, although...
No, Fairy Fire comes out. He is trying to bottle up, but this should be a kill, and Carl will be able to get a bit of revenge for himself. Gives him the tip back straight to Bob, and Bob, well, he's going to be the one that comes back with the reset now, but Carl is fairly healthy, and I'm sure he's very happy about getting the return kill.
Yeah, it's a good kill to have.
Yeah, Cuckoo. Onto Zenki, and this is that combination we talked about, John. Disruption is going to be there to set up the spear. That time around, Cuckoo didn't even need the spear. He just went for the right clicks. But you are going to have to be somewhat cautious about copying that combo when T1 do want to run it.
Yeah, it's just really strong, really potent. Again, you're seeing the early effect of this Mars in lane. Cuckoo has a ton of damage now. Level 3 still pocketing his skill as to what he needs. But Zenki can't do as much. Like, they've got potential with the Inkswell. It's just that Palas is not very tanky in the front. And Cuckoo's very hard here to pick off, and if they jump Zephyr instead, well, he's got Disruption. So there's so many ways to break the openings of Vice in this laning phase. All they can do is cut their losses, focus on the farm, but so far T1 has corrected their early laning, and they are just finding a lot more in terms of laning efficiency here.
Yeah, I mean, even at that bot lane, you look back at Jackie, he's top of the CS board right now, and up against the lane like the Prophet Tusk, you think he would kind of have a bit more of a difficult time, especially up against the Prophet, who can deny creep so darn easily. But for now, Jackie seems to be having a very good time, just able to CS very freely. And with the support of Whitemon there on the Undying, it seems like Jackie is not very afraid of dying in this lane.
No, he's got a lot of sustain. He's starting to pile on the on his defense as well. He's got his Wraith Band up, giving a little bit more durability. He's got the Ring of Regen up. Whitemon still has a huge amount of mana left, so the Soul Rips can come into play. And that's the one thing with this Undying so far. Like, Samiel doesn't necessarily want to trade his melee hero, and Enryu is much more interested in farming right now. So they can't really make use of the tag team combinations we were talking about. And because of that, well, this dual lane's really not doing as much. Jackie just holds solidly and starts to really build up. If you're not careful, that timing in the Blade Mail you talked about, once it comes up, it's going to be hard to deal with.
It certainly is. So we haven't really seen many stacks being made yet by Zephyr. He has been kind of pretty just chilled out and waiting for that right moment, but mid lane, Carl needs to be cautious again. Bob, very low on mana, could not get the lightning strike out, so Carl is going to be able to survive another day. Looks like Bob is going to go back for a bounty rune now and just try to get his bottle filled up. And it is actually going to be what appears to be a 2-for-2 trade. So there was one top bounty left on the Radiant side, so Zephyr will be able to go ahead and pick that up later, or he may have just left it for Carl. That being said, Carl doesn't exactly have a bottle right now, so he doesn't really need it.
No, it's been a slow start for him to farm that up. It is ferried out, at least, so he can hold his own against Bob a little bit more. He does have his level 6 earlier as well. So the remnants are out, and he could try to make plays, but just allows him to go for those refills a lot more committal free. You know, it doesn't cost him as much to just go home there.
No, it does not. Mid lane, Carl kind of running at Bob for a little bit, does force out a rotation from Zenki. Zenki, he's just going to make the walk back. It looks like he's not really willing to stick around here too long. Might even just try to contest the 6-minute power runes here. Zephyr is going to hang around at the top. Bot lane, they are trying to fight over it, but it was indeed up at the top lane. The haste rune will be picked up by Carl. Gives a tip over to Samael, and he's very, very happy about that.
Yeah, it's a nice little win there for T1. They're starting to, again, get a little bit more for Carl in the lane. His Ember is holding steady now at level 6, a lot more mobile, so Bob doesn't have as many opportunities to go for punishment.
Bot lane gonna be in danger. It was a nice shards out, and Enryu with the body blocks with those treants. They are not gonna be enough though. Whitemon is gonna be able to survive for another day.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. They are forcing Whitemon to use some of his regen on himself, but overall, Whitemon probably doesn't mind. He's got 2 mangoes left for the mana. Jackie's still not under any threat. And this is all you really want. Just give Jackie a free lane. Doesn't matter what else happens across the map. As long as your Spectre finds farm, you're still fairly happy for T1.
Whitemon again going to be in a spot of trouble here, but Samael now going to be the one in danger as Carl does come in. Samael going to get chained up, and he cannot TP out. And Whitemon will give this... Carl, he drops the bottle for a second. Carl does get the solo XP and gold for himself as Whitemon does back off and lets him have it. Now onto Enryu they go. Remnants forward, but they don't have any chains to lock him down, so Enryu, he's going to be alright. But they still get a nice solo pick there for Carl on the Ember.
Yeah, it's again a bit different from game 1. They're starting to find a grip in the early aggression. They're getting Jackie a better start. However, you still have a couple of issues here. Bob is still kind of free farming as well.
Oh, Stroke of Fate did not connect on Cuckoo. Mana Void does, however, but Palos does not have the cooldown on the blink. Was on cooldown at the time, and looks like Cuckoo is going to be able to survive.
Yeah, they're just not finding the openings here, Vice, so far. Rotation's not quite paying off, so kind of wasting your time around the map. You are still getting a decent start here. Like, Palos is still at least matching Jackie, so you're still not too worried. And speaking of, a bit of pressure on Jackie, but again, it's just not quite enough. Like, the Tusk and the NP are really just kind of falling flat in terms of scaring off the Spectre. Now, there are some stacks built up now as well, coming out here from T1, so they've got a lot of room to grow. Either they give that to Carl or to Jackie. Either one's going to have a good time with the injection, and that's going to give them a massive boost going into that mid game.
One thing I know for sure is Vice, they should be somewhat aware that these stacks are being made. I haven't seen anyone from Vice go into the Radiant Triangle yet to check, but they definitely should. If they do steal those stacks away, it's going to be a pretty big advantage. However, Carl going to go in after Zenki, playing around with Bob right now. Gets the chains off, and he's going to be able to get the kill back, remnanting forward onto Bob, but he is maybe just going to die, and he will. Meanwhile, bot lane, Samael, able to get a solo pick off onto Whitemon as well, so a couple nice kills across the map. And for Carl up at that mid lane, it definitely wasn't worth it to trade his life for support.
Definitely not. It is a costly kill to give out, as you really need Carl to start picking up the pace. He is still holding on for his first major item, and does have the early phase boost stuff, but you're going to need a little bit more in the Ember. The rotations as well are really giving our top lane AM a bit of a free run. Like, I think that is a bit of a cause of concern. Palos is going to have a decent timing into the battle here. Not as fast as game 1, but it is still going to be something to worry about, as he has basically been uncontested. Like, beyond the first 2 minutes of that lane, Palos has been fine, and he does rotate bot. It looks like it is time for Vice to apply some tower pressure now.
It certainly is. Palos will get started on the tier 1 bot tower. Like, Jackie has rotated over to the stacks, and there are quite a bit of stacks for him to take. He's going to start off with the small camp first, not really rushing for those big stacks yet. While the side of T1, they do decide they want to defend that bot tier 1 tower, they're not quite ready yet to go for the top tier 1 tower push. They are just going to hold on to that bottom tier 1, as there is going to be a Haunt to fly out, but where are they going? Top lane it will be as Zenki gets a nice ink swell off, but now Cuckoo runs in with the God's Rebuke, but here comes Samael. Snowball there, not in time. They do get one, but they look to turn back around onto Jackie, who gets sprouted out, but he'll quelling the tree down, and they are going to get away with their lives intact. Nice little rotation out from T1. Vice Esports very close to being able to get revenge, but they don't quite get there.
Yeah, that does stop the push down bot for Vice, so they're not really able to clean up that tower, which probably does mean a little bit of a win for T1, finding that pick off. Of course, they can't push as well though.
Well, that's a big pick off if Carl can get it, and he will. Gets a solo pick onto Palos with that double damage rune active, and well, Palos, he tried to blink away, but Carl already knew where he was going and just got the Remnant to follow up right behind him.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we need to see from Carl. Just get some work out on December Spirit. He is saving up for a Blade Mail next, but good use of that double damage, although top.
Oh, Jackie, that'll be a big pick off there for Vice. That's the one thing, right? You see a position 1 go down on the other side of the map, you know that team is coming for you if you are a pos 1. And that is exactly what Vice do. However, mid lane, Bob gonna get scouted out, does pop the Yules onto that Shadow Demon, but he is completely surrounded. He's just trying to fight this one out, but he will not make it out. The disruption is going to be able to save Zephyr's life for a second, but he will eventually go down to the Nature's Wrath. The rest of T1 do back off with another big kill under their belts.
Yeah, again, it's all down to the fact that they are feeling confident with Carl. They do have some good damage early on, and they are starting to punish. Palos now as well, just farming so far forward, needs to respect just how much Carl can do if he gets the Chains combo off.
Yeah, Carl rushing forward, but Palos is draining all the mana of Carl. Carl looks like he's had enough of that. He will back out.
Palos is shit love. Oh, they're just saying slap me, huh? She's saying that was a slap, huh? Slapping him. He's like, okay, you changed and just standing. What you doing?
Oh, mid lane on the river. Samael gonna go straight onto Whitemon. Does secure 1. Cuckoo does have the arena and does have the backup of Jackie, and Ryu going to be targeted here as they do drop the arena, and now the spear connects perfectly from Cuckoo, and that means Jackie should have himself a free kill, or maybe not. And Ryu, he had the mech up, he'll heal himself, and they will just be forced to walk away. And Zephyr tells Jackie, please take the stacks before they realize. Zenki is there to soak XP, but it won't matter. Jackie will force him back and does take the stacks away. On the brighter side for Vice Esports, John, they do not kill off the Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, it's a really good save coming out from Enryu. A bit of a dicey spot. They couldn't really go in for the snowball save, but it does work out in the end. T1 doesn't mind too much. They're just getting some safe farm as well for Jackie. This is an interesting spot for both of our pause ones, Mike. Both of them are sort of bottom in net worth for each side of the team. Like Palos is the lowest net worth core on his side, and Jackie's the lowest net worth core on the Radiant side, which is slightly worse for him as he is bottom the bin in terms of overall cores in terms of farm. So T1 still not finding that start for Jackie. Palos definitely having a better time. Battle Fury should be flying out now. That's a 14 and a half minute skipping boots, so not as fast as game 1, but this is when the AM really starts to come into its own. And I mean, Jackie with the Blade Mail, it's just not the same kind of farm as you'd see from an AM.
No, it certainly isn't. Speaking of Blade Mails, Cuckoo picks up a Blade Mail of his own now, so just really wanting to try and counter out the damage that is coming out from the Leshrac being played by Bob. Bob, you'll probably see it very, very soon, as it looks like they want to try and initiate here onto him. They do get the disruption. Cuckoo trying to get in position for the spear. Does get the Yules off. Bob is going to melt real darn quick. Jackie's in as well. Samael tried to snowball save, but he is not going to make it in time. It's Carl. In fact, it's Zephyr who gets the kill back in onto Zenki now, but Zenki should be just fine. Cuckoo trying to find a spear and will be able to get one. Carl is the one to take that kill, and suddenly the side of T1 a 3-for-0 trade.
And they just get their targets right. They know if Bob is taken out, NP and AM alone don't necessarily do anything. It's down to Bob really to set up these fights. He's a lot of their early magic damage as well. So if T1 finds that key kill, they can clean up these fights easily, and they do. You've got to be a bit cautious as to where you throw Bob here on the map for Vice. He is kind of the core that's taking this less than safe farm in mid, but they have been very passive with a slash track as well. We've only seen one tier 1 fall. I think Vice has to start considering to clump up, maybe melt that mid tier 1. It is still at full HP. They need to start clearing out some of this map, as T1, I mean, they are still slightly behind, but Jackie is having a bit more of a free game compared to game 1. He is pretty much uncontested outside of laning phase, and those stacks are still being built up and are still being cleared out.
Well, he's got to catch up quick, though. I mean, you look at that AM, John. He's got the Battle Fury up, so Palos, his net worth has started to escalate quite a bit. Of course, with the Blade Mail on Jackie, he will be able to catch up, but you've got a blinking AM all across the map just farming with a Battle Fury, and it can be very hard to keep up with that. So Vice, they have gone a bit quiet. They just want to allow Palos the spaces in the Radiant jungle. Cuckoo is going to be smoked up with the rest of his team. They are just running down, trying to find some kind of target to go after, but they will miss out. Nobody around for them to really target here. They are still having a look around. And Cuckoo, he's been left behind. He is right by Zenki and Bob, but they might be the aggressors as they see him alone. Split Earth not going to land, however, but they'll go in with the Ink Swirl and the Silent Sound onto the Mars with the Pulse Nova, and he will just melt. And there will be really no punishment here from T1 as they are not in position.
This is just really unfortunate. This Observer ward coming out from Vice is giving them way too much value. Cuckoo's smoke popped while under that ward, so it just breaks up the rotation.
They do get Enryu. He's going for another TP, but he is not going to make it out. Carl, he did have enough damage that time around. Poor old Samael just wanted to try and get himself out of there after seeing his Nature's Prophet die.
Yeah, just a bit greedy of our NP to stick around while he saw his ward being taken out. They knew everyone was there, kind of pushing their limits a bit too much. So some decent punishment coming out from T1. They still are trying to take control on this map, and they still need to find a little bit more, although.
Cuckoo, he's got the arena out onto Bob with the spear out, and Jackie, of course, will haunt in. Cuckoo will take the kill. You had 3 cores fighting over the last hit on the Leshrac, as is tradition in SEA, but it will be Cuckoo who does take it on the Mars. Meanwhile, Whitemon does end up killing off in fact, it was Zephyr who kills off Zenki, and Whitemon gets his courier.
Yeah, they are really starting to apply that pressure as 4, and this is what we were looking for from T1, right? Like we said, they had to play around their Ember. They're doing so now. They're invading that triangle. There's still a lot of farm going out here onto Palos, but his lead is not as big as it should be. You know, he's at 9.6. Jackie's at 8.1. The gap's not too wide. They're still sharing that farm with Leshrac and NP that are now starting to fall a bit behind from those deaths, and they need to find a way to kind of correct that. The farm distribution has to be a bit tighter here from the side of Vice.
Samael going to get spotted there by Jackie down at the bot Radiant jungle, but of course Jackie has no way to cancel off the TP, so Samael will be fine. How's Palos doing now? Does have the Manta being built up. It's going to be there fairly soon. While that was happening though, Cuckoo does now have the blink completed, so it might be time for them to go for a smoke on T1's end of things. They do smoke up Jackie, but he doesn't want any part of this. Doesn't have Haunt either for another minute. Gonna have to get the job done without the Spectre Haunt available. Samael. No, they want Bob. They will not be able to get him. Bob, he does get underneath that tier 2 tower, and it looks like he is going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's these wards again just giving them a bit more information. They do go into the triangle because they saw that smoke pop towards the end, so no opportunities for T1. They still have the blink to reveal though. Cuckoo is still waiting patiently for an opportunity, but this is time where he's not quite farming, so have to be a bit cautious for how much time they do waste. Really even game so far, 20 minutes in, 13-7. Net worth pretty much dead even between both sides. You are seeing Palos still pull ahead, but that is an AM. The lead again is not as big as you'd imagine it to be for the AM. It's about 2k above the Spectre, so all things considered, still not too bad of a game for Jackie here. His Manta Style is just about to fly out as well, so he is meeting the AM's farm timers here.
They found out Carl John. He's been silenced up, and they do take him out, but here comes Jackie. Onto Enryu. Cuckoo, a great arena round. He's caught 2 of them. He'll get 1. And Samael will also die. So they do get the mid-ember. It will cost them the profit and the task. And maybe even a Roshan.
Vice not have wards to spot this one out, so might not be aware it's happening. They could easily fight though. Like they've got great AoE with their Lesh. There's no Ember to kind of dig in. There's no Haunt to worry about as well. But it faults a bit too quickly, so that's going to be a nice objective for T1.
Absolutely will be, and they found someone there for a second. It was just a courier from Samael. 2k net worth lead being held by T1. Down at the bot lane, they're looking at Palos, Disruption, and Meteor Hammer will come out, and it doesn't really land, but it won't matter. They got the chains off from Carl with the roots out. Palos will die. Enryu was trying to stick around to help out. He'll go for the Sprout, but Cuckoo waiting very patiently for the last second, and he'll get the spear off as Carl. He'll have a laugh about it. Cuckoo clearly feeling very confident on this Mars.
Yeah, he is really starting to wreak havoc across the map. Still has his blink combination ready. Vice again overextending, giving out some big kills towards T1. So the lead definitely widening now for T1. 4K up in their end. All the cores on Vice are taking a hit for Palos, and Palos' lead is just not significant enough to justify that. So your Leshrac, Bob not hitting his item timings as well, and Ryu definitely lagging behind in a big way. After the Mech and Orchid, he hasn't really been able to maximize that Orchid all too well as well. So they're going to need to find a way to correct that. T1, sensing an opportunity, is going to look for the last tier 1 tower as well to take out. But Vice do look to be ready to fight this one back.
But they do, they've smoked up as 3. Heroes on Vice are respawning now. Jackie gonna break the smoke, and they just don't really dare go into the Spectre at the moment. Even if he isn't the most farmed core on the map, it is just a bit too scary. Carl will finish off that bottom tier 1 tower now. The dire triangle has been completely taken as Palos gonna blink onto the high ground for a second, and now we'll go back down to the bot lane to farm up. Jackie, snowboard up, they get the silence as well, but he's still just running down this path. He'll match the silence. Big arena around Cuckoo, catching 2 again. The AM being caught by the spear will go down along with his Prophet, and Samael will be the last one to die. A triple kill out for Jackie. In fact, it wasn't the AM that was caught, but Palos now is. He's trying to make a run for it, but Jackie again on the chase. A nice spear out, does not land on the tree, but an ultra kill out for Jackie. Jackie, it's not time for high ground, sir. There's still a bot tier 2 tower. Go back for the bot tier 2 first. Cuckoo, he doesn't even realize it.
Just a bit keen to put a lid on this game, but T1 now 21-8, 7k up. Vice falling very flat. They're starting to throw their bodies out in a rather strange fashion. They're not finding the angles they want. T1 has been able to punish spectacularly well. Cuckoo and Zephyr really key to this, along with Carl. Like, the spears are just landing. The arenas have been on point with his blink pickup on Cuckoo. Carl has been able to jump in, do his own damage. He's got his Desolator up along with the Blade Mail, so the physical damage output of her Ember is ridiculously high. Vice, they need so much more farm to be online. Your AM's not quite ready. Your Lesh.
Bob. Go on to Cuckoo. A lot of damage coming out. Cuckoo does have the Blade Mail there, though, so he's reflecting a lot of it, and Zenki actually goes down bot lane, but they do get Cuckoo. Nice pick off there for Vice Esports. Only problem I'm seeing here is Jackie. He's about to have that Eye of Skadi coming out, and well, Carl has a full BKB on the courier now. It's very scary stuff here for Vice Esports.
Yeah, this is a lot to play into now with these kinds of timings on T1. The BKB in particular means Carl is just allowed to really jump in and out. And Bob?
Uh-oh. Bob. Trying to run. Bit awkward here for Bob as he was perched up. Dagger gonna fly out. Jackie. It's pretty low on mana. He won't go any further. Bit unfortunate for him as well, John. He just got the Eye of Skadi up. That slow would have helped quite a bit up against the Leshrac, but he is not able to make use of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. However, they do force out bigger BKB charges.
Cuckoo blinks straight past Samael. He's in trouble, but that blade mail is reflecting a lot of damage. They do eventually kill him off, and here comes Carl. He's been blocked off by the shards. Still will chase down Samael. Should get one kill for his trouble, as they'll go for a bit more now. Onto Zenki. And poor old Zenki trying to hide in the tree line, but he is not going to get out as the Meteor Hammer does drop right on top of his head. Actually lands on Palace as well. Meanwhile, Jackie actually got Zenki and will help kill off Bob as well. His Aegis does now expire, but they will be able to get the kills they wanted. And with a 10k net worth lead now, T1 are looking very strong in this game number 2.
Yep, they're just going to be going for the objectives now. You've got the lead on Jackie's side. He's 2k above the AM, which is never what you want to see if you're an anti-mage. They are going for a kill, though. Yeah,
poor old Zephyr ends up disrupting himself through the counter spell. Carl wanted to go for the return kill onto the AM, but he does lose all his mana, so he won't really have the option there. But while all that was happening up at the top lane, Jackie finds a very valuable tower in the mid lane. So they're still going to be very happy, even with the death of Zephyr. And, well, Vice Esports, John, they have fallen very, very far behind. It's getting kind of hard to see them coming back with this style of draft.
Yeah, they've lost the snowballed start. They haven't gotten the farm on their Lash on the NP as well. So this is now a very heavy farming game for Vice. They need to split the farm between their cores. There's just not enough map left for them to play. They are still trying, though. They've smoked up their supports. This does look more like a warding run right now, just to ensure that they get some control on the map. They could try to make a play, but Bob is just not fit for the role anymore. Like, there's so much protection here, although Jackie.
They found a big target, but can they kill him? He pops the blade mail straight off the bat. Everyone surrounds Jackie. He's still alive. Warriors punch in. They will eventually get him, but they blow up Enryu along with him. Now, a white one, he's coming by himself. Cuckoo will jump in with the blink as well. Does kill off Bob. Zenki pops the Inkswell, Arena, and the spear, and Cuckoo just walks away as cool guys do not stare at explosions.
Yeah, it's a big set of kills for T1. I mean, they do lose Jackie, so Vice probably got what they came for, but it cost them a lot. That's not going to be enough to offset their losses with 2 cores going down for that one. And again, you need some farm in your Lesh and your NP. They can't really function without too much farm at this point in the game.
No, they certainly
They've really
can't.
stalled out in progression. Our Leshrak's been stuck with BKB Yules, and that's just not enough. Like, he can save himself, but he doesn't stay alive long enough to really make an impact. Enryu as well. Again, Mech, Orchid, and nothing else for the past 10 minutes. This is just a stuck game for both of these cores. You look at T1, Carl, you know, he's got his BKB for a while. He's going to the Daedalus next. Jackie just finished up, of course, his Scotty, and he's saving up for his Ags. So much more progression here for T1 and Vice. If they start losing map control as well, it's going to be hard to get anything off in what remains of this map for them.
Well, that it will be, John. Carl's going for the complete Daedalus, complete physical build with that Daedalus pickup as well. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Yeah, I think it's really darn good if you did opt for the Desolator early on, though. And again, we've seen this once or twice for members, maybe 3 times. It's not as common, but it can work. And I think when you do have this kind of strength dropping kind of playstyle with Whitemon around, it just makes it so much easier to burst them down. You also kind of saw the BKBs, and you're up against an AM who has that counter spell. So the physical build for the Ember does make a lot of sense, especially since Carl has been able to punish Paulus quite hard for that, as he can't really do much. Like, the moment you see Paulus pop his Manta style, you know he's going to be vulnerable, and the right clicks of our Ember are really high right now.
But they are. Bot lane, they will pop the Diabolic Edict and just try to get themselves a tower, but Carl is once again around to haunt them. You can really see the effect of Coach March here, John. Carl has consistently been picking up mangoes. Very, very good stuff. Coach would be very proud. They do go ahead and pick up the Grimstroke, and now Bob, he has spotted danger, but no, he'll be fine to run away. Like I was saying, John, the mango tree has been used very effectively here from T1.
Love to see it. The only thing lacking now is Carl forcing someone to eat mangoes. That's a classic March Wayne, although Enryu
And Ryu does go down top lane. Very nice pick up there, a nice setup from Zephyr. And with that, I mean, you've got 2 heroes down. You might consider trying to go high ground.
Yep, no question about it. Should be a fairly good high ground to take. Vice does have their Lush around to maybe do something, but it looks like they're going to try to go for a tier 2 trade instead. It's not going to be a smooth time. You've got the Ags up on Jackie. You've got the fresh Daedalus up on Carl as well. Tier 3 does fall, and there's just no response. Like, they might not be able to get the racks, but just having the tier 3 gone opens up so much opportunities for T1 to punish the split push that Vice will want to play with now.
Roshan going to be the target here for the side of T1. Damn, Aghanim Scepter being up on Jackie. The Shadow Step, going to be very fun to watch, I'm sure. Not very fun when you're controlling the camera though, John. It's quite annoying, actually.
Gotta love it.
Bot lane, they do get that tier 2 tower. Carl will show himself with the full Daedalus and could be in trouble. Silence up. Palos is going to be out with the Walrus Punch from Samael, and that's your Aegis gone. But now Jackie does use the Shadow Step and will go after Enryu. So they do get something for their trouble. Definitely probably wasn't really worth losing the Aegis, but, you know, I'm sure Carl's okay with it.
It's not too bad. That's a fairly fresh Aegis to lose, though. But
Die Jungle Bob has been caught out. He's trying for the TP, but he will not make it out in time. Meanwhile, Zephyr was getting low, but that's a lot of damage out from Carl now with the spear into the arena, and Jackie just loves what he sees from his offlaner as they shadow step again into Samael. Inkswell, is it going to be enough? No, it's not. Jackie wants more. Zenki goes invis, but Cuckoo does know exactly where he went, and Cuckoo, a great spear out, will kill off pretty much everyone on the team. It's a full team wipe.
Yeah, and they're just going to be able to take these racks. The defense for Vice, as soon as the respawns are up, is not going to be smooth. Their AM's gone for a lot longer as well. They might lose just 2 racks, maybe even all. They just don't have any options here for Vice.
That they do not. T1. No outer towers here for Vice Esports, so they can easily go for all lanes of Barretts. Vice Esports not buying back and not calling GG quite yet. Oh, Carl does have a disconnection, so I'm going to have to wait a little bit. FPS
At
drop.
the least, it's FPS.
I mean,
It's
it really is, though. I mean, if there's one thing you can believe when a player disconnects, it's FPS drops right now. It's the amount of frames I've been dropping. I mean, I've literally halved my frames in Dota now, ever since Dying Tide came out. Whitemon, I mean, a spot of trouble. Disruption from Zephyr, gonna save. Now the snowball out onto Jackie. Bob gonna try and fight this one out, but can he get the job done? Jackie's fighting back. Meanwhile, in the back, an arena is gonna be there. Cuckoo trash talking this whole time as they do all go down once again, and the GG will be called. That'll mean a draw for the first series of the day between T1 and Vice Esports.
Oh yeah, that's a remarkable game. Carl closing out with style there, Mike. If you look at his items at the end, I think you're gonna like what you see. Really interesting next level build for Carl in his Ember, securing him that fountain kill. You're gonna see it right now.
Wait, I'm not seeing anything. Well, oh!
Botched out in the fountain.
Double Desolator. Yeah, right.
Don't try it in your pubs, kid. Still, T1
Hey.
holding out. They do correct the issues in game 1, and yeah, Carl just had a great game.
You know, in Dota 1, John, people used to buy Double Desolator. It was purely for the damage, and I feel like most people thought that it would stack with the minus armor. So it was kind of like, if I buy 2 of these things, which kind of hear me out on this, right? During Dota 1, do you remember the double Vanguards that people used to pick up? Like, you were playing an Axe and you just got double Vanguard and you were suddenly unkillable?
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember the double butterfly on Troll and the double basher on Troll?
Jesus.
So you see, in
Oh.
Dota 1, if all those things kind of worked, the double Desolator, in theory, should also work, right?
Oh, come on, Mike. That was the time when everyone is buying SNY in every hero, Vanguard in every hero. You'd have some people who'd go crazy and buy 5 Perseverances. That takes me back.
We
I love
all
the
did
Perseverance
that.
build. That's my favorite. That was my favorite, hands down. Who needs regen? You had 5 Perseus. That was it. You're done.
That was actually what every single person did when they first started Dota. Just spam Perseverance. As long as you have regen, who cares what happens after that? With that, though, John, we're going to need a bit of Perseverance for our break. We are going to have to wait 10 minutes, but after that break, we are going to go into our second series of the day. It is, of course, going to be MG Trust versus Execration, and as you can see, John, they are making fun of the fact that I have not changed my shirt yet. So our lovely admin Dougie is letting me know to make sure I change the shirt, and I will, I promise. I was going to go make a sandwich and try to eat before we cast the next series, John, but I can't now. I'm going to have to delay merienda. I'm going to have to go change my shirt. It is MLP Dota and johnxfire. We'll be back in 10 minutes for our next series of the day. We'll see you soon.